3 of Senshi, Arc 3, Chapter 7. The Hunt Begins. 2 hours later, Luke, Leia, Han, and Mara finalize their plans. Okay, Mara will be heading back with us on the Falcon in order to retrieve the shard on Coruscant, Leia said. Luke nodded at that. Is there anyone else who can go with you? Han's brow furrowed before snapping his fingers. Yeah, Jan's Sailor Corellia, so he can hitch a ride with us. He thought for a moment. What about everyone else? Not all of us are reincarnated princesses. Luke cupped his chin in his right hand and thought for a moment. We'll have to simply split it up so that none of our Sailor Jedi have to travel from far. I can take Tyree to Tatooine very quickly, but no one else can fit. Mara, signing after the exchange, spoke up. We better be careful. Roxas knew enough to send his latest batch of clones here, so he might even be aware of this. Han snarled, and his hand unconsciously directed to his blaster pistol. That creep better not try anything. Leia, wearing a utilitarian jumpsuit instead of her usual dress, began rummaging through her pockets. She pulled out a data pad and Riley's stylus. We better figure out who's going where, or else this whole quest is never going to get off the ground. Han nodded. That's my girl. He leaned over her shoulder and said, Just make sure that girl with the purple eyes isn't on the Falcon. She's nice and all, but she gives me the creeps. After a half-hour debate, the passenger manifest for the Millennium Falcon, Steel Dragon, and Jade Saber, and Luke's X-Wing took shape. On board the Falcon were Leia, Han, Chewie, Jason, Jaina, Mara, Anakin, and, to Han's chagrin, Hotaru. Lily, Sana, Tion, Luna, and Setsuna flew in the Steel Dragon. Musa, Tennokan, Zek, and Ami manned the Jade Saber, while Luke and Tyree would go into Luke's personal X-Wing. Phew! 19 met in the old hangar bay and prepped the 4 ships for launch. Thank goodness the other Senshi aren't in here. Can you imagine how long I'd be listing names? Jay and Zek stood in front of the Falcon. You be careful, alright? Zek said with concern. Jaina brushed her long brown hair out of her eyes and nodded. Sure, but only if you promise me the same thing. The young man nodded, his normally pale cheeks flushing red. He bent over and one fluid motion gave Jaina a kiss on the cheek. Before she could say anything or even react, he was over there at the Jade Saber. There, Tennokan and Jason were having their own discussion. So, you want to hear a joke? He asked her, a sly smile on his face. Tennokan's right eyebrow went up. Where he continued, she placed a single finger on his mouth and quieted him. Friend Jason, I will hear your joke after the battle's won. Jason silently nodded and went to the Falcon. He turned back to the Warrior Queen in lizard hide armor and shouted, You'll be so funny, you'll snort blue milk out of your nose! Tennokan allowed herself a brief smile at that statement. Her eyes shimmered as a bad feeling passed over her. Yes, hopefully I can laugh at your joke, if I'm still alive to hear it. Luke stood in front of Mara with his flight helmet under his arm. He quickly went to him and wrapped her arms around his waist. Why do I feel like I'll never see you again? She said, unshed tears stinging her emerald eyes. The Jedi Master smiled slightly. Now, what happened to the toughest nails, take-no prisoners lady I met in Midcare? Mara shrugged. That lady never fell in love with a naive farm boy. She looked deeply into his brown eyes. Promise me you and Tyree will be all right. Luke nodded. We'll retrieve the shard and return to Yavin 4, and we'll be together again. Mara broke away from Luke and pulled down the front of her flight suit, straightening it out. She smiled. Her eyes regained their luster. Good. We'll be waiting for you there after Jaina and I get ours. And with that, she turned and walked over to the Falcon. May the Force be with you, farm boy, she whispered. Luke nodded and whispered back, and may it be with you as well. On board the Steel Dragon, Lily and Tion prepped the ship for launch. Wookiee sat back in the pilot's chair and ran diagnostics on the propulsion systems, while Tion checked life support. All systems seem fully operational, MTD said, translating Lily's story. Luke. The Elven Jedi nodded as he studied the panel. Thank you. She rose and headed for the aft cabin. Sana, Luna, Setsuna had already strapped themselves in. Tion walked over to the pair of them and asked, Are you ready? Setsuna nodded impassively, while Sana fiddled with her cross-webbing. Luna sat in Setsuna's lap and licked her own front paws. I'm all set. Tion turned back and headed for the cockpit. "We're all set," she said, while plopping down in the co-pilot's chair. Lily looked down at the viewport and growled. MTD's optic sensors flashed as he said, "Of course you'll see Master Chewbacca again." The little translating droid detached itself from Lily's siren favor belt and floated in front of Lily. The little droid's voice shot up in octave as it said, "You still believe in yourself." Hey, am I the only guy who thinks that MTD would be voiced by the guy who played by Paul Bettany from the Avengers? I'm not the only one who thinks that, right? Lily looked at the droid in wonder. "You're telling me that?" He cocked his head to the side. "Are you alright?" "Of course I'm alright. You simply need a little pep talk." MTD floated back down and reached to test itself to Lily's belt. Tion did a final check on the Steel Dragon systems. "We're all ready," she said. Lily nodded and powered up the engines. A steady whine built up as the Halpon passenger ship lifted off the ground, slowly left the hangar bay. Meanwhile, a small fire darted out, barely missing the Steel Dragon. Luke piloted his X-Wing with his customary skill as the fire shot out of the atmosphere and into space. You know, I had to wonder, is land speeders really the same as piloting an X-Wing? Tyree even let out a whoop of delight as he pressed into the passenger seat. Luke smiled at her enthusiasm. This is just like Vader's Canyon back home. The sky outside the canopy charged from blue to purple, and finally into the inky blackness of space. Jedi Master checked the coordinates for Tatooine. Before he activated the hyperdrive, cast his senses outward through the Force. The Steel Dragon and Millennium Falcon sailed by on his left, while the Jade Saber came up from behind. "Wait a minute, that ship's too small to make a jump gate." "Ow! No more Babylon 5 for you." Luke sent down a message to Leia through the Force. "Will you be alright?" He received a message after a few seconds. "Yes, it was just weird meeting Mother. The only memories I had were when I was a toddler. Oh, we're going to hyperspace. Good luck, brother." The Millennium Falcon stretched for a moment before vanishing into the alternate dimension known as hyperspace. The Steel Dragon and Jade Saber followed soon after. Jedi Master pulled out a lever on the X-Wing's control panel, sending the stub fire into hyperspace. Tyree stared out the window, mouth open in wonder. "I never get tired of hyperspace," the young blonde said. Luke nodded as his eyes wandered out into the red haze surrounding them. "Yes, it is amazing." He turned his head around in order to see Tyree a little better. "Do you know what to do when we reach Tatooine?" Tyree furrowed a brow in thought. "No, I never gave it much thought, really. Maybe I'll sense the crystal, or maybe I gotta be a Sailor Senshi. Well, I feel where the crystal is?" Luke deftly interrupted her rambling. "Maybe you should meditate on it." The young girl nodded and closed her eyes. He felt her heartbeat slow down. After a few minutes, Luke decided a meditative trance was just what he needed as well. Han checked the Falcon's course. In a little over 10 minutes, they would reach the Corellian star system, his home. Then, a short hop to Coruscant, and finally back to Yavin 4. Chewie growled across the now. "I wonder if they know where to find these shards." "No, I don't think Mateo or Mara know how to find these shards." The former smuggler got up and headed for the main cabin. He found Leia and Hataru talking to one another, while Jason and Anakin played some Earth card game. He cleared his throat and said, "Alright, we'll be at Corellia in about 10 minutes. Does anybody know how to find these shards?" He then looked around. "Where's Mara and Jaina?" Leia motioned to a hallway leading to the aft sections. "They're catching up on some sensey business." Han leaned up against the bulkhead and pointed to Hataru. "Then why is she here? From what I understand, you've been a Sailor Senshi for 10 years. The young girl looked up at Han, instantly unnerving him. "Jaina didn't need my help with this, so I decided to get to know Mrs. Soho a little better." Leia chuckled. "Please, Hataru, call me Nea." The Senshi at desk shrugged. It looked like a young woman again. "All right." She turned around in her chair and spoke to the brothers solo. "I get with her." After a minute, Mara and Jaina appeared for the black. They were still talking about something. What if I don't want to make a speech? Mara said, with a hint of exasperation. And why do I only have a shield? She waved her arms about and spun about. Power and justice! No! Lay at the force! No! She stomped her feet a bit, face turning almost as red as her hair. Oh, by the way, everybody else who likes to do bad Sailor Moon fics or Sailor Moon hate fics, this is how you properly tease the speech. Her niece snorted, covered her mouth. So, sorry, Aunt Mara, but you don't have a choice with that. All Sarah says you make a speech. You might get something with star power, though. Mara grunted something unintelligible and sat next to Hataru. Former Emperor's hand glanced at the Senshi of death and spoke. So, how did you get involved in this? Did Luna drag you out of middle school? Hataru trembled as Mara's question cut into her. She dropped her gaze to the table and said in a low voice, My body was taken over by a being from Tau Ceti, known as Mistress Nine. My powers were manifested as a way to combat the creature infecting my mind, and the emergence of Sailor Saturn nearly drove me insane. Mara shuddered at Hataru's matter-of-fact reincarnation of a previously painful part of her life. A roar from the cockpit startled everyone. Han turned and stuck his head into the hallway, half yelling to all, Alright, we're coming out of hyperspace into Corellian orbit. Tia nodded, concentrated for a moment, and stuck her right arm up. A transformation wand appearing in her hand. She breathed in and shouted, Corellia star power! Make up! A great energy field enveloped the young woman, dissolving her clothes and replacing them with a sailor fuku with a black bow and short gray skirt. Elbow-length gloves and ankle boots completed the ensemble. For love and justice, I am still a Corellia! She said, striking a pose. Han stood there for a moment before. I better go get clearance to land. He looked at his wife. Care to join me? Leia smiled and got up. She walked over to her husband and snaked her arm around the waist. Let's go, Nefada. The couple headed for the cockpit, leaving Corellia with her brothers, aunt, and fellow Senshi. Chewie looked up as Han and Leia entered. All set? The former smuggler sat down and checked the control panels while his homeworld was approaching rapidly. All set, Chewie. Leia walked over to him and leaned forward. Is everything okay? Han hesitated, sitting a bit in his chair. Yeah, it's just that I got a bad feeling about this. Jaina was nearly roasted on Naboo. Leia shook her head. We must have faith in her. She's not a little girl anymore. Han smiled tightly. I know. That's part of what's bothering me. He pulled down a lever in front of him. Outside, the swirling mass of hyperspace reverted back into the star lines, then into actual stars. Ahead lay a shining blue and green planet. The Falcon shot into Corellia's atmosphere and headed for the capital city of Coronet. So intent was Han on maneuvering, he didn't even notice that his daughter was in the cockpit. She spoke up. Dad, we need to get to the southern continent. Corellia's soft voice startled Han, causing him to nearly jump out of his chair. Ah! Jaina, don't do that! He turned back to the controls and mumbled. You'll give me a heart attack before my time. Suddenly, the full part of what his daughter said hit him. Wait. Southern continent. Jaina, there's nothing there! Leia touched Han on the shoulder. Han, we better go. She had discerned an odd light in her daughter's eyes, and it scared her. The Millennium Falcon did an abrupt 360-degree spin and headed for Corellia's southern continent. Large cities were gradually replaced by farmland, and large, thick woods replaced with those. Eventually, the freighter came upon a burnt clearing. Corellia leaned over at Han's broad shoulder and pointed to it. There! It was all she said as the Falcon touched down. Han, Chewie, and Leia were about to relax when an alarm began blaring. Chewie glanced at the sensor display and roared, "Arr! Arr!" Unidentified vessel approaching. Han swore in several colorful languages as he got up. He already had his blaster ready, but his daughter grabbed onto his arm and halted his movement. The sentient mechanics looked into his father's brown eyes and said, No, it's too dangerous for you. With that, she turned around and marched out of the cockpit, leaving a flustered Han, concerned Louie, and a worried Leia. Corellia walked back into the main cabin. She found out that Mara and Hataru had transformed into Sailors Coruscant and Saturn, respectively. Jason and Anakin stood off to the side, both lightsabers ready, but not ignited. Jason walked up to his twin and said, with a hint of nervousness, asked, "Should we get the home here is burning, or will you need our help?" Anakin looked to the side, as he could see the Falcon's hull. "No, there are at least 3 of them. We should be cautious." Sarah Coruscant walked over to the panel on the wall and pushed the button on it. "Han, open up the main hatch. We're going out." Her voice took on a quiet of concern as she continued. "Please stay inside. I'm not sure what we'll be facing." Han's rough voice came over the speaker.
"All right. Just make sure nobody gets hurt."
The quintet made their way to the midpoint of the ship. A large accented stair, located to their left, hissed opened, and a gray ramp extended to the ground. Coruscant took point. The former Emperor's hand unclipped her lightsaber from her green skirt and activated. Anakin and Jason followed her with blue-bladed and turquoise-bladed lightsabers, respectively. Sailors Corellia and Saturn took up the rear, with Saturn having her silence glaive at the ready. The raven-haired girl switched the blade from right hand to left hand in anticipation. Sailor Corellia walked with purpose, recovery of the crystal shard. The clearing they landed in was quite large. A sleek assault vehicle sailed down the opposite side, nearly 500 meters from the Falcon. Coruscant smirked. "I guess modified escape pods wouldn't have been able to hold 5 clones." Her smirk faded as she felt the power from those on board. "Oh boy." A hatch on the shuttle's side opened with a hiss as the inner atmosphere escaped. A single man stepped out. His brown hair was brown. It reminded everyone of Jason and Han's tousled locks. His body was adorned with ancient Jedi armor. He carried an ornate lightsaber with a rapier-like hilt. He shaded his brandy-colored eyes and looked over the Falcon.
"I am Ulek Geltorma. I challenge you on behalf of my comrades."
Coruscant's mouth went dry as he stepped forward. Emerald flying as he yelled back, "I am Sailor Coruscant. I accept your challenge." As he pointed her sapphire lightsaber, Kel Tormund said, "You are an evil clone. Disgrace to your name. On behalf of the Force, I will punish you." Happily, Sailor Coruscant smirked. In her lace, he growled, "Why must I do these secret speeches? I'm even starting to get good at them." Kel Tormund lay back and shouted to his ship. He descended the ramp, followed by Twilight in dark clothes and a large patch of scars on his face. After the Twilight, Exar Kun himself walked down. "Hey, no rematches!" There was a swagger to his steps as he approached the Jedi Knights. "The previous clone of me was imperfect. Now you shall see me in my glory." He turned to the subtle as a brown-haired woman in a long flowing dress stepped down. "Now, one to match my power," he said, motioning to her. She had a cloak fastened around her neck, a lightsaber attached to a strap onto the dress. Finally, an elderly-looking humanoid appeared. He had a shock of white hair and wore brown robes. Most disturbing, however, were his eyes. They were all white. A blind Jedi Master, an old woman, ancient Sith Lord, ancient Jedi Master, and a Twilight. This fact makes me love it almost every paragraph. All 5 clones held a lightsaber hilt high and ignited them. Jason, Anakin, and Corellia responded in kind, and the battle was joined. A lot of light actually approached the boo boo. Hey! We gotta switch. We gotta see how the others are doing, okay? The desert planet Tatooine. Luke observed the sandy wastelands that were once home. Looked back at Tyree. "Can you sense anything?" The young girl held closed her eyes and concentrated. She reached out with the Force and swept the planet, even as it loomed at the canopy. Finally, Tyree spoke in half volume. "It's in Baker's Canyon." The Jedi Master gave her a boyish grin as he flew his fire a meter above the desert floor. The twin suns shone overhead and blazed out almost all the landmarks, leaving the sand a dry white. Ahead, a shimmering mass appeared on the horizon, and eventually coalesced into a large rocky mountain range. A series of ancient riverbeds and sandblasted gorges cut through the living rock. Here, Luke and his friends had piloted a T-16 Skyhoppers and honed their piloting skills among razor-sharp passages. Oh, well, that explains everything. The X-Wing came to a stop just outside of one of the many entrances to the inner canyons. Luke opened the hatch and jumped down, followed by Tyree. They both shed their flight suits and were glad to be the only in their Jedi robes again. Luke crouched down and opened the hatch on the fighter's underside. He pulled out 2 backpacks and handed one to Tyree. After a second's hesitation, he pulled out an ancient broadsword. It was almost 2 meters long, and the blade covering in inches of an ancient language. Wait, is that Darkspeak? Oh, I think I can translate it. Dis and up. The Jedi Master studied the blade for a moment. It's amazing that so much evil could come from some simple weapon. Tyree's graying eyes scanned the blade. She allowed a shiver of revulsion course through her body. Let's just get to that shard so we can get out of here, she said. Suddenly, the young girl found herself with her transformation wand in hand. She held it aloft and shouted, "Tatooine Star Power! Make up!" A small sandstorm enveloped the girl, reshaping her robes into a sailor fuku with a dark yellow skirt and matching bow tied to the front. Luke nodded his approval. Good. We'll need the extra firepower in case Baracus sent any clones after us. He stepped back, mostly for her to go in first. Tyree, now Sailor Tatooine, smiled and led the way. The pair watched silently among the tall canyon walls. They glanced bare chivalry here and there, and a huckback's cry could be heard on occasion. Luke's memory drifted back to when he was a young boy, racing through Beggar's Canyon with Biggs and Tank. Those were carefree days, but the weight of the Empire destroyed their innocence forever. Biggs was dead, Tank was a moisture farmer, and Luke was the spark that rekindled the flame of the Jedi. The past was gone. All that remained was the future. Tatooine speed walked to an unknown goal. The blonde-haired Senshi found herself drawn to somewhere. After a few hours, the two stopped to rest. Luke uncorked a canteen and took a sip of cool water. Tatooine uncooked her own canteen from her backpack and drank from it. By now, the twin suns had passed over the canyon walls and began to set. The shadows began creeping down the cliff faces, like a curtain being drawn. Luke craned his neck around. He fixed his piercing sapphire eyes onto Tatooine. Tyree, I must ask, how do you know where we are going? Sarah Tatooine shrugged, her head tilting a bit. Yeah, I can feel a pull from the shard. I can't describe it, but it's getting stronger. The Jedi Master smiled. Good, because I know where we are. He pointed to his left. That way is to an old rock formation known as... Tatooine interrupted him. The Stone Needle? She flashed a toothy grin as he turned to her right, Luke's left, and began walking again, chattering all the way. Silva used to guide me to hide through the passages during the summer months. She thought back to her days with the Tusken Raiders. It used to take us a month to go through here. We eat nothing but womp rat and shrub berries. Oh, right here! Ahead loomed an ancient formation of stone. The stone needle towered almost a kilometer above them, and at the apex was a large hole carved through, although Luke couldn't tell if it was carved by river or battle, now that he knew of his homeworld's history. Tatooine craned her neck upward as she walked to the needle. She could almost feel it calling to her. Sailor Tatooine found herself sheltered on the dirt floor by Luke as fire whizzed past where she stood. She got up and ran as Luke shed his backpack, simultaneously unclicking his lightsaber and igniting it. An emerald blade sprang forth, and just in time to deflect a half-dozen sapphire bolts away from the pair. Tatooine also shrugged off her backpack and let it drop, concentrating for a half-second. The gaffy stick appeared in her right hand, held up, ready to do battle with whoever was attacking. Luke shielded his eyes as he looked up to the cliff face. He gritted his teeth as he saw who his opponents were. I've defeated you before in Maul. Luke Skywalker versus Darth Maul, round 2! A new clone of Darth Maul stood on top of the cliffside, facing opposite Luke and Tatooine. He sneered as he sighed. I was alone before, but now I have aid. Admit it. You people are right now getting ready to play Duel of the Fates. Don't click off your immediate player. Your soul knows the truth. He motioned to a human being holding a blaster rifle. She lowered it and waved at Luke, shouting almost rather enthusiastic, "Hi! My name's Butler Sloan." She slid the blaster rifle over her shoulder and unclipped a two-handed lightsaber from her belt. She ignited just as Maul ignited his double-bladed lightsaber. The pair leapt off the cliff face and landed on the rocky floor below. Boltar and Maul advanced on Luke and Tatooine. The Senshi stand ready her weapon. A spear of yellow energy formed at the pronged tip as he waited for just the right moment. Although Dathomir was technically a member of the New Republic, the Backwater planet never bothered to send a representative to the Senate. As a matter of fact, life had changed little for the Force-strong people over the years. People still used wheel carts instead of speeders, and off-world communication was possible only one place: the old Imperial prison. Stupid mother-frickin' cell phone charges! The old facility was now the largest and only spaceport on the planet. The Jade Saber landed on the Farrakeen runway, barely wider than the ship itself. The access hatch slid open, and the ramp slid down to the ground. The first one out was Tenel. The normally static Jedi bounded and spun around. All around her, she could hear the planet call out, "Welcome home! Welcome home! Welcome home!" She turned back to the Jade Saber and sounded enthusiastic, "Come, friends! We have much to explore!" Second Ami appeared at the top, both seemed a little nervous at Tenelka's upbeat attitude.
Tenel, can you sense the sword anywhere from here?
Ami asked. The warrior princess looked around and pointed to a mountain range with her right hand. "That is a fact. I sense something from the Singing Mountain range." She took a few steps towards her ancestral homeland, but Thella's soldier stopped her. She turned back and saw Ami there.
We could go in the Jade Saber. Wouldn't that be easier than walking?
The genius asked. Telka nodded again. "That is a fact." The two went back to the ship. When they reboarded, Ami headed for the cockpit with Zek, while Tenel went back to the main cabin with Lusa. Ami sat down in the pilot's chair, with Zek looked closer to her.
That was a good landing. I didn't even feel a bump.
The blue-haired genius busted a compliment.
It's only because of the excellent teaching I received.
At that, Zek laughed.
You can credit Mara for that. She started you off. I helped you finish.
Ami nodded as he powered up the engines. The Jade Saber left up the tarmac and hovered for a second before shooting off to the Singing Mountain range. As the ship passed over the tall mountains, Ami realized that, apart from Tenelka's fake statement about the Singing Mountains, she had no idea where to go. She activated the comm and spoke into her headset's microphone.
Tenel, could you please come here? I need better directions.
Zek turned to her.
I was thinking the same thing. These mountains are pretty big.
The cabin door opened and Tenel entered. Ami checked their course and engaged the autopilot. She turned back to her friend, but recoiled when she looked into Tenelka's gray eyes. Normally they were vibrant, but for some reason they were focused and glassy. Princess turned to Zek and said in a dull voice, "Begin scanning for a cave about 100 meters deep. That is where we must go." Zek turned back to the controls and began scanning the rocky ground. Tenel stepped back and spoke. "I must turn to Dathomir. Then I can pinpoint the star's location precisely." The warrior princess concentrated for a half second. An ornate rod appeared in her right hand. She held it aloft and shouted, "Dathomir star power! Make up!" A red mist surrounded the young woman, dissolving her lizard skin armor and replacing it with a sailor fuku and blood-red skirt. A red bow in front and matching high heels. A globule of energy coalesced around the stump of her left arm and formed into a gloved forearm and hand. Half a second later, Tenel was now Sailor Dathomir. Senshi turned to Ami and said, "Go 2 kilometers to the west. You'll find a plateau there, large enough for a ship." And with that, she turned and left to the cockpit. Ami sighed and disengaged the autopilot, pointing to the Jade Saber to the west. The sleek cruiser covered a 2-kilometer distance to Dathomir, instructed to reach in minutes. Zek ran his fingers through his black hair as he scanned for a cave 100 meters deep. He motioned Ami to come over. The blue-haired genius got up and looked at Zek's sensors readings. It showed a cavern dug into the side of the mountain. Its smooth walls of regular shape pointed to being artificially dug. The fact that there was a large open area right next to it also helped. Ami nodded.
That must be it.
She sat back down and stared the ship down. The several-ton cruiser landed without so much as a thud. Ami smiled and turned to Sek.
How was that?
Sek chuckled. It was any smoother. I swear we were still in the air.
Ami laughed at that, but didn't disagree. She and Sek got up and headed for the main cabin. Finally, Sailor Dathomir and Luz were there. The Turonian hefted her transformation wand in hand and said,
Do you think we should transform as well?
I don't want to be stuck twirling around while clones of Sith Lords and
Jedi Knights attacked us.
Ami thought about that.
You're absolutely right, Lusa.
Ami held her right arm up. Her transformation wand materialized in hand. She and Lusa both shouted the transformation praise.
Mercury crystal power! Make up!
Gyro power! Make up!
A bright blue energy ribbon twirled around Ami, melting her clothes and reforming them into Sailor Fuku with a blue skirt, matching bow on front and knee-high boots. Lusa was surrounded by a green shield of liquid crystal. It hugged her body, broke apart and dissolved, leaving behind a Sailor Fuku with a light skirt, matching bow and greaves fastened to her four equine legs. Where Mizuna Ami and Lusa once stood, now stood Sailor Mercury and Sailor Chiron took their place. Sek blinked twice in order to clear away the dazzling light show he had just seen. The former bounty hunter went over to the main hatch and keyed in a code. The hatch slid open and a ramp slid out to the ground. Sek unclipped his lightsaber and activated, sending an orange blade shooting forth.
Is it just me? Or does anyone else have a bad feeling about this?
No, bad Sek. You do not say that in a Star Wars movie. The quartet descended to the rocky surface. Mercury and Dathomir also had their lightsabers unclipped from their Senshi uniforms and activated. All four Jedi could feel someone there, although they didn't know where precisely. Sek glanced at the top of the cave. The hole in the ground was carved into the side of another short plateau. Suddenly, he stopped in his tracks. He turned back to his companions, but he saw all three had their eyes fixated on the plateau above the cave. He smiled joyously.
Glad I'm not the only one who says that.
He turned back and saw four beings emerge. He tensed his body as he prepared for a fight.
I suggest that the best course of action we have is to simply run for our lives!
The quartet sprinted for the cave as the clothes sunk down to the plateau. Sarah Dathomir, in the rear, cleared the mouth of the cave just as the clones landed with a thud below. She immediately extinguished her saber blade, dimming the cave. Mercury and Sek followed suit. The cavern was soon plunged into an inky blackness. Mercury tugged her ear, and her VR visor materialized over her eyes.
Now at least one of us can see,
She said, looking around. Clones entered the cave, each one holding a blood-red lightsaber in hand. Sek sucked in a breath as he saw the first one. It, unbelievably, was a Hutt.
A Hutt Jedi?
It's more common than you think. Chiron thought for a moment.
Let's belligerent, splendid!
You know, if you gotta have a name, make it glorious, I always say.
Trixie agrees,
She said, with just enough surprise in her voice.
He's still in 4/6 of Hutt in the recorded history.
Miss Leia killed him about
14 years ago.
Bloodron slithered slightly, leaving a trail of slime. Unlike other Hutts, he had a quickness and alertness about him, and his slug-like body was all muscle. The next clone had a short purple skirt, Durian blouncing hair. Dathomir gritted her eyes as she recognized Callista.
So, Barack has truly reached the bottom of the gene pool, has he not?
Clone sneered at the warrior princess.
It's time to drag you down to the depths of hell, Tenoka. I'll show you my home there.
Mercury studied the face of the third clone. She was a dark-skinned woman with shining blue eyes and a serene expression on her face. She wore the traditional robes of a Jedi well, and her lightsaber was held in a classic two-handed grip.
The Force is strong within you, but can it defeat Jedi Master Adi Gallia?
Mercury widened her strands and stood her ground.
I have the light side as my ally. You will never defeat me.
The final clone stepped forward. The light from his lightsaber cast an eerie light over his pale skin, turning him into a slickier shade. Sek sucked in his breath as he stared into the story mirror.
I Guess breakfast was sick enough to do it, he said as he stared into his own clone's eyes.
The clone of Sek stared at the original.
I can't believe you turned your back on Master Breakfast. He trained you, respected you, loved you like a son. Then you betrayed him and sided with his murderers.
His mouth drew back into a sneer of utter contempt.
I was the first clone Breakfast made. He trained me in most of the ways of the dark side, and I won't betray him.
Sek shook his head as the clone approached.
I never personally betrayed Breakfast. I thought he died aboard the Shadow Academy. But my place is among the light, and I won't give in.
But Alderaan laughed.
Ho, 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 ho. You think you can win? I can crush you like a bug.
Gus raised her blade high, while the clone Zek and Adi came in from the sides. Mercury suddenly cupped her hands in front of her, shouted, "Sabine!" Like a ball of blue Xerathine formed in her hands. "Scream!" The bloom of white shot from her hands and exploded into a blizzard of white as fog. It filled the cave and blinded everyone. The Jedi could still use the Force, though. Dark side clones were blinded both physically and mentally. Bill Alderaan slashed his lightsaber around, carving deep gashes into the wall.
Sek smiled and said, Ami, you're a genius.
He strode forward and ignited his lightsaber, slashing the air. Adi shouted as he backed up. "We can't fight in this fog. Fall back!" Kalasta and the clone Sek acknowledged the Jedi Master's command and walked backwards. Bill Alderaan, however, had to turn around before heading out. Lusa let out a small whoop of victory as the clones left without even a fight. Sek was a little more reserved, though.
We sent him off here. That means he'll be bloodthirsty when we hit Chiron.
He turned back to Dathomir and saw her at the far end of the cave. Sek, Mercury, and Chiron hurried to Dathomir's side. They found her in front of a wall. There was a small hole carved about halfway up. Mercury scanned it with her visor.
Appears to be a keyhole.
Great!
And me without a keyblade.
Sek nodded.
The safe in place was too convenient for anything else.
Suddenly, Dathomir took a Rancor II lightsaber and thrust the emitter plate first into the hole. Then, she thumbed the light activation lever, activating it. Cracks jutted out from the hole, and flakes of rock crumbled to the ground. After a minute, Dathomir turned her lightsaber off. By then, the hole was about the size of her head, and in the middle was a shard of clear, indestructible crystal. Dathomir reached in and plucked it out of midair and held it up to her gray eyes. "This is what we came for." Sek glanced out of the mouth of the cave. Mercury's fog had already begun to dissipate. He cast his senses out, but found no traces of clones.
I think our enemies have gone out to Chiron.
Dathomir died. "That is a fact." Sarah, Chiron, and Mercury led the way out of the cave with Dathomir and Sek following. "You're troubled by the clone of you." The former Dark Jedi, turned his head as he emerged from the cavern.
Nothing gets by you.
He sighed as he approached the Jade Saber.
Didn't think Paraxis would clone me. Not a million years. Figured he only had DNA for dead Jedi and Sith Lords.
He paused as a sudden thought hit him. How the hell did the Kamonians get their hands on all this DNA?
And how far back does it go?
Mercury, who was almost on the ship, went back down and put a comforting hand on Sek's shoulder.
That clone may have your DNA, but it doesn't have your spirit. You are Zek, native son of Eneth. That thing was grown in a test tube and fell to the dark side.
Sek looked up at Ami. He placed a hand over hers and smiled silently.
Thanks, Ami. I needed that.
Chiron shouted down from the main cabin.
At least I got going. Those clones have a head start on us. I don't know what they'll do to my world.
Sek leaned over and looked up at the centaur girl, nodding.
Sure thing.
He and Mercury bounded up the ramp, followed by Dathomir. The pair headed for the cockpit and sealed the ship up. Mercury paused before sitting down. A bright flash of light engulfed her. When it faded, she was once more Mizuno Ami, girl genius. She sat down and powered up the engines. Then she looked at Zek.
I may be good, but I know for a fact you're better.
She motioned for him to take the pilot's chair. The wiry young man smiled and got up. He quickly took the chair and sent the Jade Saber into a deep climb out of Dathmir's atmosphere.
It takes real guts to admit that,
he said as the atmosphere changed from blue to purple, finally to pitch black. How many blasters he checked the Saber subsystems.
It's true.
She checked the route to Chiron, Luce's home world.
Course is plotted and laid in.
Zack smirked as he pulled back the hyperdrive levers.
Well then, what are we waiting for?
Lily roared as the moon of Yavin 4 came into fore.
Master Lubaka says that we have reached our destination.
MTD said. Tio nodded. The other Jedi had occupied the cockpit chair and allowed the lanky Wookiee to pilot the ship on its own. She got up and headed for the hatch.
I'll see how our positors are doing.
Lily simply grunted his acceptance and kept his furry hands on the controls. Tian quickly raced into the main cabin. She found Sana standing in the middle, transformed into Sailor Melody. The young girl was practicing her power, parallel ensnarement. The younger woman would cast out an energy web and lash onto an object. Sometimes it was a cargo container, other times it was something smaller. Setsuna and Luna stood off to the side, gave instructions. The elven Jedi smiled as he walked in.
How's our little Sailor Senshi doing?
Melody smirked as she latched onto a fire extinguisher.
I'm starting to like this.
She retracted the web, causing the extinguisher to sail into the air. She then used the web to halt its momentum, and sat crashing to the deck. Setsuna turned to her best friend.
How long until we reach Yavin 4?
Tian thought for a second.
We'll be there within 10 minutes.
A Wookiee roar from the cockpit turned their heads. NTD's voice shouted out,
Master Lubaka wishes to inform you we'll be there in 2.
Tian turned back to the sentient time and smiled.
Like I said, we'll be there in 2 minutes.
Sailor Melody half closed her yellow eyes and concentrated. Flash of light engulfed her as she reverted back to Sana. Luna walked up to the young girl.
That was good work, Sana. I'm glad to see you're taking this seriously.
The young girl looked down at the cat and rolled her eyes.
Well, it's not like I have a choice. We've got to beat that Zim, or else we're all dead.
The steel dragon landed on a grassy field a few meters from the great temple. The hatch opened up, and everyone piled out. Tian was overjoyed that her husband Cam was there. The delicate woman leapt into his arms and kissed him. The tough-looking man twirled his wife around and laughed.
Missed you.
He said as he put her back down on her feet. Tian looked around.
Where's Kip?
The former Dark Jedi pointed his thumb over his shoulder at the great temple.
He's teaching a class.
His face took on a concerned expression.
Another Dark Jedi teacher?
Darn Luke, how many more of these do you got?
We got Master Skywalker's message. You looking for a crystal shard?
Setsuna's face startled both of them.
It's part of an ancient weapon. Designed to destroy Sim to Despot's spirit.
Cam marched over to Setsuna.
I heard about you. You're Sailor Senshi, right?
The sailor guardian at the time nodded.
Yes, your wife is as well.
Cam turned back to Tian.
Heard about that. A warrior for love?
Tian concentrated for a second, holding her transformation wand into her right hand. She held it high and shouted,
Yavin power! Make up!
A ribbon of white fire circled Tian, melting away her Jedi robes and forming them into a sailor fuku with a sailor skirt, silver bow on the front, and matching ankle boots. Her silver hair came bound up with a bow. She then turned to Cam, who had a smell of gave with surprise.
I am the pretty sailor soldier Yavin,
she said with a curtsy. Cam chuckled, face turning slightly red. Suddenly, Yavin stood up straight. She looked up and focused on a grove of monastic trees.
It's here,
she said. Setsuna, Luna, and Cam all walked up to her.
Tian, what is it?
Sailor Yavin unclipped her lightsaber from her skirt and ignited. A silver blade shot off from the emitter plate. She swung it in a tight arc in front of the tree roots. The plasma blade laid a cuts in the dirt. Losing it, enabling Yavin to levitate it out of a newly formed pit. Setsuna's eyes lit up with understanding as she observed her friend. After a half-minute, she began aiding her friend and levitating the dirt out. Yavin turned to Setsuna and smiled.
Thank you, friend.
After a few minutes, Sailor Yavin deactivated her lightsaber and raised her arm. A translucent crystal emerged from the pit and rose over to Yavin's hand. Why can't they all be this easy? The elven Jedi held it up to the light and examined the tiny shard. Everyone could feel tremendous power emanating from it.
I hope that little bubble can destroy Zim's spirit,
Cam said. Setsuna slipped her mind to a tight stream for a moment. I can only say that great hardship awaits us on our journey.
Cam flashed a small smile. Nothing worth doing is easy.
He patted Setsuna on the shoulder.
We might have to have a talk before this is all over.
Setsuna turned to him and fixed her powerful eyes on him. I would love to have lunch with you and Tian. Sarah walked over to the pair and held out to the Sard. Come, we must be going. Her husband nodded. There was an air of sadness as he kissed her on the lips. After a minute, the two broke off. Setsuna and Yavin walked back to the Steel Dragon and boarded the Hapan ship. Before it lifted off, Sarah Yavin sent her husband a message to the Force. I love you. Cam blinked back tears as he responded,
I love you too.
On board, Yavin reverted back to Tinion. She stood in the main cabin with Luna and Savin. We're going to Yavin 4-8 now. Get your hand on that, Savin. The young girl put on an air of false bravado as he boasted. What do I care? A bunch of water-breathing do-nothings think of me. They cast me out when I offered to help defend the changeling pods. She looked down unsuccessfully, tried to stifle sobs that brought her to her knees. What do I care? I care because they're my people! She broke down and fell to the deck, tears streaming from her yellow eyes as Tion bent down and hugged her. Luna walked up and rubbed up against Sana's leg, going, It's all right. Let it out. Setsuna and Loie entered the cabin. Both heard her sobs. Setsuna looked down at Sana. Pity filled her heart. She sent a message to Tion. I believe that the Jedi might not be enough for her. I don't think so. The dawn burst, and the floodwaters will eventually recede. By now, Sana's tears had mostly stopped. Her eyes were puffy, and red veins stood out in her eyes. I'm sorry. I shouldn't have done that. Tion shook her head, a sad smile on her lips. No, you needed to let that out. What your people did was wrong. She looked at Sana in the eyes. But we'll always be here for you. We can't stop the pain, but we can ease it. Loie barked out a long string of Wookiee language that NTD quickly translated. Master Luabaka says, Sana, what the Melodies did was dishonorable and cruel. The Jedi would never abandon you. I will never abandon you. That's so sweet. Sana slowly got up and walked over to the lanky Wookiee. She wrapped her arms around him and gave him a hug. Thank you, Loie, she said. Tion, Setsuna, and Loie could feel her spirits brighten. The small girl disentangled herself from Loie and stood back. She held out her hand and concentrated. Loie, her transformation wand to her hand. She held it high and shouted, Melody Star Power! Make up! A large spear of water surrounded her, shrinking down and forming a light purple Sailor Fuku with matching skirt and high heels. After a second, Sailor Melody stepped forth. Let's do this. Loie roared his agreement and headed for the cockpit, followed by Tion. Luna walked up to the young Senshi as she craned her neck slightly. The Sailor Senshi always take care of their own, Sana. You can count on that. Melody smirked. Thanks. Loie and Tion piloted the Steel Dragon to the Yavin system. Their destination loomed ahead. The moon of Yavin 8. Loie guided the ship through the atmosphere and towards somewhere. After a few minutes, he barked, Where
the crap do I go?
Tion turned away from her scanners and shrugged. I don't know either, Loie. She was about to suggest calling in Sailor Melody when the hatch opened up. Melody and Setsuna stood there. Take us where my clan lives. Loie's brown eyes blinked in confusion. He checked the ship's course and found they were only half a kilometer from Melody's old home. The ship rocked over flat, cold lands. There was little vegetation, and the ground was frosty even in direct sunlight. The ship approached a small, azai-covered pool. Several youths surrounded the pool and talked with half-dozen mermaids. I would be happy to see mermaids, but these guys are a-holes. Setsuna appeared at the viewport. How does the pool stay ice-free? Sana thought a second before speaking. There's a series of geothermal vents. They keep us warm even in the frigid winter. The Steel Dragon descended and touched down about 10 meters from the pool. Several years approached the Hapan cruiser, marveling at sleek lines and weapons. The main access hatch slid open, and a ramp descended. They gasped in wonder. When Sailor Melody walked out, they snarled and shouted, "Go away!
Leave, freak!"
Setsuna noted they recognized her, even when she was a Sailor Senshi. So, these Senshis have no disguise magic. One of the youths cocked her head to the side and her face before saying, "Wait, that's not Sana." The other youth gasped in surprise. Elder girl said,
But I thought that Sana was the only one of us off-world.
Melody turned to Setsuna. Her face screamed out,
What the hell?
Setsuna sent her a message to the force. Sailor Senshi have an aura about them that blocks them from being recognized in their untransformed state. The young girl nodded. She walked down the ramp and stood in front of the girl.
Nota, want to know something?
No, older girl nodded and stared at her quizzically.
Sure, I guess.
Sailor Melody motioned her head down. When she did, young Senshi leaned toward her ear, brushed a strand of brown hair out of her eyes, and shouted at the top of her voice, "I am Sana!" The girl recoiled in pain as Melody's shrill scream tore through her head, igniting a migraine headache. The other youths backed away as Melody walked towards the steel dragon. She suddenly paused and felt the familiar eyes staring at her from her pool.
Lyric?
She raced over and found her best friend, floating with her arms folded in front of her. Lyric smiled and spoke.
Don't mind these idiots, Sana. They've got leather brains.
Her expression turned serious.
What are you doing here, anyway?
Sana shook her head and knelt down.
I'm not so, really. There's something I've got to get. Some sort of crystal shard. It's hard to explain, really.
Lyric nodded.
Well, go as long as you have a purpose again, my friend.
She held her hand.
May the wives gave you.
The younger Melody took the hand.
And may the caves be warm for you,
she said, her voice breaking. With that, she rose and headed for the mountains. Setsuna, Loie, and Luna followed. Setsuna looked over as the youths went with cool, green eyes, while Tian shook her head, setting long strands of silvery hair flying. Luna and Loie walked past her, held high, not bothering to look at the youths. After about 5 minutes, Melody turned back to her companions and flashed a toothy smile.
I so needed that!
Tian smiled, crossed her eyes, and slightly noticed.
Yes, those little xenophobes needed a lesson, but we also need that shard.
She knelt down in front of Melody and lightly grasped her arms.
Sana, do you know where that shard is?
The girl held close to her yellow eyes and reached out with the force, scanned all around until,
It is there!
she intoned, pointing to a tall mountain. Tian studied the craggy peak for a moment before saying,
Well then, as Dana would say, what are we waiting for?
She turned to Setsuna before continuing. On transforming to Sailor Yavin, we need the extra firepower. Setsuna nodded. She had her transformation wand ready. 5 hours later, Sailor Pluto leaned heavily on the time staff. She was quite fit, and being a Senshi and a Jedi Knight increased her strength and endurance tenfold. But walking straight up the side of a mountain in frigid temperatures and thinning air did little for her constitution. Luna perched on her shoulders and sighed.
I hope Sana's not leading us on a wild goose chase.
Yavin turned back for the trail, confusion on her face.
What's a goose?
Pluto sighed and resumed walking with Yavin, staying behind her. Loie was quite a ways ahead. Claws and natural strength led him well to the track. Sailor Melody, meanwhile, plunged on ahead for all 4 of them. She scrambled over the rocks and crags, heedless of any scratches or bruises she got. She finally came up to a spot on the rocky ground, shallow, egg-shaped cut in the rock. She turned back to her companions just as they caught up with her.
Found it!
Yavin and Pluto walked up to it, while Luna bounded off of Pluto's shoulder. The women looked at each other, unclipped their lightsabers from their skirts. Pluto ignited a yellow blade, while a silver blade shot from Yavin's lightsaber. The 2 walked up to the gas in the rock, and wordlessly began slaving away. After a few cuts, large sections of rocks had crumbled into a shallower pit, and in the center floated a shard. Melody peered into the pit with yellow eyes. She reached out a gloved hand, and the shard flew into it. She held it to the light and said with a weary voice,
Now, can we go back to Yavin 4?
I think a detour to Yavin 13 is in order, actually.
Melody, Luna, Saturn, Loie, and Tian whipped their heads around at the voice behind them. Tian gasped in surprise as he immediately recognized Varaxis and Temif Ka. Roxas, how did you get here? Sith Lord smiled slightly at his old classmate. I am more powerful than you could possibly imagine, Tion, and you are far weaker than you could possibly imagine. The Night Sister ignited a red lightsaber.
Surrender. We prefer to take you alive, but death is also acceptable.
Pluto ready her time staff. We have you outnumbered and outgunned. She stood tall with Sailor's Melody and Yavin flanking her. I am the Soldier of Time, Sailor Pluto! The three then spoke simultaneously. Kimi will want that? Oshiyoko? Seriously, I gotta find out how to say the name of the force, so we will punish you in Japanese. Braxis chuckled. His obsidian-colored Sith armor glinted in the feeble light as he spoke. No, I will be doing the punishing. He and Tamifka separated, allowing the quintet to get a look at the trail below. They roared in surprise as 4 clones appeared over the horizon, each holding a blood-red lightsaber. Behind them, 200 stormtroopers stood, blaster rifles ready. They were in staggered position so they could get a solid wave of red plasma bullets at a Jedi. Pluto gritted her teeth before setting her time staff on a down, followed by her lightsaber. Lily growled in defiance, but a sharp glance from Pluto silenced him. He stepped forward and laid his lightsaber down, followed by Sailor Yavin. Bryce smiled and motioned to Melody. You have something of mine. The young girl's pale skin turned even whiter as he felt Baraxis latch onto the shard. She tried to erect a telekinetic barrier around her, but he was too powerful. The shard flew from her hand and landed in his. He extended it with maniacal looking blue eyes. You're not a sword, but you're powerful. He pocketed it and gave it to Yavin. Give it. The elven Jedi bit her lip in frustration as she tossed her crystal shard at him. He latched onto it with the force, levitated to his hand along with Sailor Melody's. Tamakai walked over and examined the shard.
It's quite lovely,
she murmured. Bryce smiled. Then it shall be a necklace for you, my dear. He looked at the Jedi and snarled. Get moving. The quintet marched towards Braxis, while Tamith Kai scurried up to retrieve their weapons. She looked over at the time staff with an expression bordering on awe.
Such power.
Her violet eyes examined the powerful weapon before Braxis yelled at her, Tamith Kai! She quickly gathered the lightsabers and returned back to his side. So he turned to him and asked,
What now?
The Sith Lord turned to the Night Seer and formulated a large plan. We will fight there. I will send word to the clones off-world to continue fighting Skywalker's Jedi. Hopefully they can take some down. He joyously smiled. I will possess the ancient soul of the Sith, and we will rule this galaxy for an eternity! Lysis turned and looked into Yavan's silvery eyes as she passed him. There won't be a damn thing Skywalker can do about it, he taunted. Her voice contorted with rage. Yavin, Luke won't stop until you're dead, Broxus! She spat at him, sending a glob of spilled onto his shining armor. He looked down at the glob clung into the armor's side. That will cost you, Tion. He then motioned for them to be escorted to the plane. That would cost you most dearly. His hand then blurred, struck Tion, sending her to the ground. Well, guys, we're about to do a rarity for this show. We're going to have to finish the rest of this next weekend. But don't worry. You and I both know. You guys know it's going to be worth it. Because this whole dang adventure has been glorious so far. So, tune in next week for even more lightsaber battles, even more Jedi clones, and, of course, the Senshi being what they are the best. Awesome! Speaking of awesome, friendship games. Sunset. Nothing more to be said.